Hi there! Well, today I'm going to be sharing with you a get ready with me style video. This is going to be a recreation of the eye look that I wore in a recent video. It was the Nars All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation review. A few of you mentioned that you really liked the look, so I thought I would just do a get ready with me and show you how I did it. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't have anything on my face other than some CeraVe moisturizing cream and then some Lipsil lip balm on my lips. I think the way that I want to start with this eye look is to go ahead and fill in my brows first. I don't always do it that way, but sometimes if I'm doing an eye look where I'm using a lot of colors and I want a little bit better of a framework to know exactly where I need to place everything, I will do my brows first. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. And I am using the Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade in Taupe. I've really been enjoying this. I showed this to you in a Ulta haul that I did just a few weeks ago. I was really a big fan of the eye pencil, and a lot of people suggested that I try this, and I really didn't think I would like it, but I do. I'm so in love with it. This is an amazing product. I think I might actually do a review video just on this product because I like it so much, and it was something that I was really intimidated by. But there's really no reason to be. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Got these brushed through now so they look a little bit more natural. I think they always look a little bit more harsh before you get any other color on your face just because they stand out so much in contrast to what it looked like before. But let's go ahead and start putting some eyeshadows down now. For the look that I'm doing today, I'm going to be using some shadows from both the Laura Mercier palette and then a Nars single. As far as I know, the colors I'm going to be using from the Laura Mercier palette, I think that they are permanent. It's going to be colors from this bottom row down here, but I think they're still available. So let's go ahead and get started with the look that I did. The first thing that I want to go ahead and do is just create a sort of canvas all over my eye. So for that, I'm going to be using the color down here in the corner. This is Vanilla Nuts. I like this just to sort of neutralize everything, get that redness out of my lids, and create a nice little canvas for myself. Let's see if I can't use the viewfinder here somewhat too so that I'm not always looking away from you, which can be hard to do in these videos. And I'm not careful with this at all. I go into the corner, I go everywhere because it's just a neutral color, and I'm going to be going back over and covering it all up anyway. So let's do this side as well. The next thing that I'm going to do is put down my transition color, and this is something I've actually been playing with recently, using it earlier on in the eye look versus later on. Sometimes I've been putting the transition color down first, and then other times I'll go back after I have the lid and crease color in, and I'm trying to play around with it and just figure out what method works best for me. Lately, I've been putting down a little bit before I get to any other colors, and then also going back and buffing a little bit of it together. So kind of enjoying doing that method right now. But today I am going to be using this color here in the Laura Mercier palette. This is Fresco. You don't need to be terribly careful with it, but this is pretty pigmented, so it's not something I put on very heavily, but it is something that you don't have to be super careful with. So let me go ahead and put this down. And I go up a little bit higher with this. I'm using this mostly in sort of my crease area and then up a little bit into the brow bone area. And again, just sort of applying that somewhat generously. And this is just, again, to sort of give me a guideline under the same premise as with my eyebrows, that I like to have a little bit of a framework, and this sort of gives me an idea of where I need to keep my lid color. Now that I have that all over canvas color and transition down, I'm going to go ahead and start working on my lid color. Today I'm going to be using the Nars eyeshadow single in Cairo. This is just a really pretty neutral. It's very warm and cool at the same time. It kind of goes with either one, which is why I really like it. This is also a great shadow to use all on its own, just as an all over color, and I really like it for that on very minimal makeup days. Okay, so how I'm going to apply this is all over my lid and then just barely up into the crease. That's something that I've been doing a lot more lately. And it's funny, since I've been doing that, I've been getting a lot more of you saying that you like the eye looks that I've been wearing. And I've just been playing around a little bit with keeping my darker colors really low and then staying lighter up further on my eye. And I really like the effect that that's been giving. I don't know if I would say necessarily it's a more lifted look, but it just seems to create a cleaner eye for me, if that makes sense. I'm also not afraid to pull up on my eye because my eyes are somewhat hooded, and to keep this color down low, I really do have to pull up a little bit, and then I could just place that down there. And then, like I said, I barely go into the crease with this. I want to keep this down low. Okay, so I have the color put down on my right eye, and now I'm going to go in and do the same thing on the other side. I do really like to pack this color on. It's a very light color, and because I have put down that Bobbi Brown color as my all over canvas, it doesn't allow other colors to go on as strongly, I guess. So it creates a little bit more of a soft look, but I do have to make sure then that I really pack on the color to get the look that I want. So I'm just tapping that in and then keeping that really low into my crease. Now the lid color's on, I want to go back and again add another layer of transition color. This again is just something I've been sort of toying with lately and sort of going in stages with my transition colors. So I'm going to go back in with Fresco and just do a very, very light amount of transition here with that. Not a whole lot. I'm just going to tap off the excess and go back in here. Again, you don't have to be really, really careful with it. And I can always buff this out later on too. Okay, so that's it. That's literally all I want to do. I just want to keep going in stages with this to keep it a really good blended look going. The next thing that I want to do is add a little bit more definition to my crease. I'm also going to keep this down pretty low. I am going to be using the color Turffle, which is right here. And I've been trying to use smaller brushes for this, so rather than doing a large fluffier brush like this MAC 224 or this MAC, or excuse me, this is a Sigma E35, I've been trying to use smaller brushes and really keep this down low in my crease. So for this today, I'm going to be using the Real Techniques. This is the Essential Crease Brush. So I'm going to go in here and get a little bit of this Turffle on here. Tap off the extra. Again, I'm going to pull up on my lid here just to make sure, because if I don't, you can see that little hooded area, that's going to stay down low, and I really want to get this color right there in the crease, and I'm also going to look downward. So I want to keep that down as low as possible. I thought about doing a video, I don't know if you guys would be interested, but as I'm getting older and my eyes are a little bit more hooded, and I'm trying to do some different techniques, I've been thinking about putting together a video of just maybe some eyeshadow tips for more mature eyes. I have done a eyeliner tips for mature eyes a long time ago, and I thought that maybe I would do a video where I talk about all of these different eyeshadow techniques as well. And with this look, I don't want this to be incredibly strong. I was trying to keep this a little bit lighter of a look, but I am going to go back in just a touch on both of these. I wanted it to be, I don't know, we're not in spring yet, but I wanted this to be sort of a warm spring type of look, I guess. Okay, so my crease color is in. I've got that Turffle all over, and now what I want to do is go in and blend the transition a little bit more, but I'm not going to add any more shadow to it. I'm just going to take the brush that I used and blend around the edges of that crease a little bit. So I'm just going to go in here and just soften this a bit, kind of small circles and going back and forth on both sides. I just like to blend as I go. I think it makes it a little bit easier than trying to do it all at the end, and then it sort of, I think it just makes things easier, makes the look a little bit softer. Okay, now something else that I've been doing is I've been using two different colors for my Browbone highlight, a matte shade and then a more shimmery shade. So what I like to use for this is I'm going to go back with that Vanilla Nuts, which is the color down here that I used all over my lid, and then also Sparkling Dew, which is right down here, and this has a little bit of very light shimmer to it. So what I've been doing is I'll take the matte color and I'm going to go pretty generously around this Browbone area just above the transition, and then I will show you with the other color, the more shimmery color, I've been doing a really fine highlight just right underneath my brows, and I really like the effect that this has been giving. So I think I'm going to use this brush from IT Cosmetics. I know I'm not really talking about all the brushes as I go through because I know that you guys probably already know what to use for these different things, but This happens to be the It Airbrush Shadow. So I'm going to go in with Vanilla Nuts. This is that sort of matte, creamy vanilla shade. And I am just going to put this right along here all the way up to my brow. And I'm also going to go into this inner area a little bit and into my inner corner area, because I want all of that to stay bright. And I'm going to go and I will blend all this together a little bit. It won't look quite so stark here in a minute. And then do the same thing on the other side. And again, I always just keep lifting. My eyes are kind of deep set and a little bit hooded, so I think it just helps to sort of get in there and lift it up a little bit. And it helps me anyway keep these colors where I intend them to be. So my first highlight shade is on, and now I'm going to go back in and add that really fine Browbone highlight, the one that's going to be just under my brow. And I'm going in with Sparkling Dew, which is down here in this corner. And I've got my favorite craft store brush for doing this technique. This is the Artist Touch 1/4 inch Angular Shader number 1500. I purchased this at Hobby Lobby, really inexpensive. So I'm just going to get a bit of this Sparkling Dew on my brush. And this is a little bit of a powdery color, so I just want to tap this off. And what I do is, and normally I have to get in pretty close to my mirror to see this because it's a little bit of a very fine technique to do, but I'm just going to take this and very gently go right up against my brow. I just want this to be a highlight that stands out a little bit more, but I also want it to be very fine and thin and as close to my brow as possible. So I'm just going to go in with the angle this way, and then just place that. You can probably see some of the powders falling. This is such a, unfortunately, a very powdery shadow. But I just like the effect that this gives, and I've been doing this so much in my looks lately. I just like the dual highlight technique, I guess. I don't know what you'd really call it. But I think it adds a little bit more dimension to my look. And then I can also go in to this inner area and brighten that up a little bit. So let's go ahead and buff this in a little bit. I'm going to go back with that shadow, excuse me, the brush that I used for my transition shade. I am going to add a little bit more on, so this is going to be Fresco again with this brush, but not a lot, just a tiny, tiny amount. I'm going to go back in and sort of blend this all together. I also find it helps to just keep looking down and to lift up a little bit. Let's do the same thing on the other side here. Alright, so I think for this look today, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of definition in my outer V, which is something that I also did in the video, or the look for the video. So I'm going to use this color down here. This is Espresso Bean, just a very flat, dark brown espresso color that I love for a lot of different looks. And I want this to be very fine and just limited to my outer V, so I'm going to use a really fine brush. This is the Sigma pencil brush, the E30. This is a color you have to be really careful with. This is very pigmented and also a bit powdery. So I am going to take a tissue here and I'm just going to place this exactly where I want it and then go back and buff it in later with a different brush. So I just have a little bit on the edge of this. Let me put this here. Oops. And I'm going to need a little bit more of that. I think I tapped off a little bit too much. And I just put this down at the lash line and then slightly up into the crease just to create that little bit of a V. And of course that doesn't look very good until I buff it out. And I don't like my looks to be really harsh, so I do keep this pretty soft. I want a little bit of definition, but I don't want it to be too obvious either. I just want it to create a little bit more interest in the look without being too over the top. I am going to go in with this MAC E35 just to blend all this together. And I really make sure to stay on this outer edge. I don't want to bring this over too far into the look. I really want this just to stay over here and just add a little bit of depth out here in the outer corner. And I will pull it over slightly, but not more than a third of the way in. And I do think that I got a little bit more of the vanilla nuts here in the corner than I wanted to. It went down on my lid a little bit, so I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more of my lid color. This is the Nars Cairo. I'm going to go back with that first shader brush that I used. And just add a bit of that back in. And then one more time, I'm going to add just a tiny bit of my Fresco transition color, just barely any. Add that a little bit to this brush, tap that off, and then I just want to go back and bring all this together, but not a lot, because it can get really peachy pinky really quickly with this if I get too crazy with it. And then I also sometimes take my finger and just to blend out that second highlighter shade, just to bring it all together. Okay, so that is it for all of the shadows. Now I'm going to go back in and add some eyeliner. Lately, my favorite eyeliner has been the L'Oreal Liner Intense, and this is in the color Carbon Black. I've also been using the color Earth and Rock, but for my filming and for videos, I want my eyeliner to be a little bit more bold, so I've been using, again, sort of a layered technique with this. The first thing that I do is take a little bit of this liquid liner, and I press it almost in a tight lining type of technique. I press it up against my lashes as closely as possible, and then I go back in with my matte eyeshadow. I'll be using the Espresso bean and kind of buff it out a little bit and soften the look, but the first step is to go ahead and put down some of this liquid liner. So let me go ahead and do that. I may have to go off camera to do this because I might need to get in a little bit closer, but let me just try this out and see how it goes. So this is sort of a felt tip style. I absolutely love this. It's so intense and so pigmented and it's so easy to work with. I love that it's not a brush. Instead, it's a little felt tip, so it's just really easy to use. And so I just, instead of dragging this, I like to just press it in really, really gently. And I want this to be as thin as possible. I guess I'm actually able to see it better than I thought that I would be. And it doesn't have to be perfect because I am going back in with that second color. So my first liquid liner line is down, and as you can see, it's just really, really fine and then thickened up a tiny bit at the outer edge. And now I'm going to go back in with my matte eyeshadow and soften this and clean it up a bit. So I'm again using Espresso bean from down here in the corner and my favorite craft store brush. This is the Grumbacher 1/4 inch number 794 angle shader. Love, love this brush. So I'm going to get some of this on here. And I need two hands for this because this is also a bit powdery. I have to put my tissue back up to my face for this because this does get so messy, unfortunately. Back in on this side. Go in. I love my microfibers for this, so let me go in and clean this up. It pulls it right off of my skin. Okay. Alright, so that is it for that. I am going to use a bottom shadow for my bottom liner, but I want to wait until I get my concealer and everything else on. So now it is time to go ahead and add in my foundation. So in the video that I am basing this eye look on, I was using the Nars All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation, and I did a review for you on that, so I will link that down below. I've been doing some experimenting with this foundation since I started using it. I mentioned in the review that while I love this, I think it's fantastic, it doesn't give me a luminous appearance like the name would indicate. So I've been experimenting with using this mostly and then adding a drop of my Guerlain Lingerie Depot with it. So that's what I am going to do today. I'm just going to put 2 pumps of this into the palm of my hand like Nars recommends you do to warm this up a little bit. And then I'm going to do 1 pump of my Lingerie Depot there in the palm of my hand. And I'm just going to warm this up with my finger a little bit with my body temperature. And then I will start working this around my face. I do this in small sections. And so I'm going to start over here. And while I'm doing this, I was just going to talk to you about, I put this out on Instagram so everybody would have a little bit of a heads up, but I've been working on transitioning. Oh, and in case you're curious, this is the It Cosmetics Airbrush Foundation Brush. I've been working on transitioning my channel name to my real name. Instead of using La Beauty Bag, I've kind of complained forever that I really wish I had not used something with beauty in the title of my channel, because I like to do just so many different things. And while it doesn't, obviously the name of my channel doesn't prevent me from putting whatever I want on here, I just kind of wish I had something a little bit more generic. So I started by putting Lynette Low Beauty Bag, and then eventually, as I can, I will transition to using my last name as well. I'm just kind of a little intimidated by that whole process, because you've got my blog, and I've got Twitter, and I've got Instagram, all with La Beauty Bag, and so there's a couple schools of thought, and that part of me is like, well, go ahead and do it while my channel's really small, and that way, you know, it's not as painful as maybe later on or a few years down the road if I grow a little bit. But, you know, I'm also concerned about doing it and messing everything up. And okay, so that is the foundation look. I think I've got a pretty good amount of coverage on there, and I didn't even use all of this. This foundation, I mentioned in the Nars video, it goes so far that you don't need a lot, and I'm going to end up not using most of this. So, and you do get a good amount of coverage, and I go right up under my eyes and everything. I just love the coverage of this, and it doesn't settle into lines or wrinkles even under the eyes. Okay, so I'm going to go in now and just add a little bit of concealer underneath my eyes, and I actually don't have any spots to conceal on my face today, which is very, very nice. So I'm going to go in and add a little bit of this matte concealer just in my innermost dark corner area. And I do have another IT brush. This is the Airbrush Concealer. This is a pretty good concealer to use with your fingers though too. And I'm just going to do a light bit of concealing today. I think I slept pretty good last night, and my allergies aren't terribly bad today, so my circles aren't too bad. So let me take the extra and go around here. Okay, so that is it. Now let me go ahead and just set my foundation with some powder. I've been using this Hourglass Ambient palette with the 3 different colors in it lately. So I'm going to go ahead and go in and add all these on. I've been using all 3 of them every day, so I found a way to use all of them. So I am going to be using a color down here. These are kind of backwards from how they're in here, but this, I believe, is Dim Light. I have been using that to set my foundation all over, so I'm just taking a Bobbi Brown powder brush, and I'm going in everywhere and setting this. And I do need to go back in and add that shadow color as my lower liner as well. I'll do that after I add this powder in. So I'm just using this lightly all over to set my foundation. This provides sort of just a minimal amount of color. It's a really good setting powder for me. I love this stuff. But it adds a nice bit of glow. Just a really, really subtle glow. Okay. So I have that. And now I'm going to go back in with the darker Radiant Light color down here on the end. And I'm going to use a really big fluffy brush for this. And I'm going to have to recomb my brows as well. I'm messing them up a little bit. But I am going to go in and add a little bit of a bronzy look to this. So let me get that on there and get some of my hair out of the way here. So I'm just going to dust this on in an E pattern. Just where the sun would naturally hit. I'm going to stay up here high on my forehead and bring this down. My hair really wants to get in my face today. And then go in and add a bit more. I love this because it feels like a bronzer that you can't overdo. And I'm going to go back in. What I do is I don't add any more product to the brush, but then I go back in and sort of bring it all together by buffing around the areas that I didn't concentrate on when I first put it on. And go down my neck as well. Okay, and then I'm going to take the color that is in the middle. This is Incandescent Light. I'm going to use this underneath my eyes, mostly at the inner corners, and then to highlight my face a little bit, I'm going to go in with this MAC Fluffy brush to do that. This is a really pretty color for highlighting. So I'm just going to go in here in the inner corners and lighten that up a bit. And then on this side as well. And then I will highlight right here above my brow, just a touch. And then I'll go down the bridge of my nose. And that's it. That's all I do for that. And now I am going to go back in and finish off my eye look. So I want to add a little bit of this color down here. I am going to use Turffle, which is right here. And this was the color that I used for a really minimal crease color. Now I'm going to go back in and use that as my liner color underneath my eye. So for that, I'm going to use this brush. I love this one from Sephora. This is a little Pro Shader number 18. This is my favorite brush to use for eyeliner. Again, this is a little bit harder to do staying so far away from the mirror. So now that the eye look is done, I'm going to go back in and curl my lashes and add some mascara. I'm also going to clean up my brows just a little bit. I got them a little out of place adding my face powders. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and then I will come back and we will finish off the look. So now all that is left to do is to go back in and add some blush and my lip color. So for my blush today, I'm going to be using the Hourglass Ambient Blush, and this is in Luminous Flush. Been using this a whole lot lately, and then I will get to my lip look in a second. So I am using the Again, the Cosmetic brushes. This is an airbrush powder. This is a powder brush, but I do like to use it for blush, and I will show you how. So I'm just going to tap this in, and then I will start by just sort of sweeping this on gently. I think this applies blush better than anything else I have used before, and I've been loving it. And I don't want to overdo it either. And I'm going to go back in and blend this a bit. I'm going to take the brush that I used for the bronzer and just kind of go around the edges here. And soften that up a bit. Get that off my face. And now let me add my lips and we will be done. So I'm going to be using the Urban Decay Naked Lip Liner, one of my favorites, and I'm going to top it with a gloss. So let me go ahead and put this on. So my lips are lined and completely filled in, and I'm going to go back in and top with a gloss. This is also Urban Decay Naked. It's a nice neutral pink gloss. I kind of like the neutral pink lips with this eye look. I think it keeps it all really soft and pretty and neutral, which I'm all about the neutrals. So that's it. That completes the look. So that is it. That is how I created the eye look for that video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.